Michael and Jared Duggan-Tierney with Reed, their son, in Melbourne, Australia. The family has a popular Instagram account. Christopher Hopkins for the New York Times, Melbourne, Australia. It was a scene that plays out nearly every day in schoolyards across Australia. A couple, standing among a dozen other parents, waited for the final school bell to ring. On cue, Reed Duggan-Tierney, 7, came bounding out of school last Friday and ran towards Michael and Jared Duggan-Tierney, his fathers. The Duggan-Tierneys are one of around 6,800 Australian same-sex couples with a child. In many ways, their family represents the chasm that has emerged between the law and people's lives. As the debate over same-sex marriage in this country becomes increasingly hostile, gay parents are balancing the daily routines of playtime and homework with activism. Australians will soon vote in a national postal survey, a non-binding poll intended to help the government decide whether to press forward with legalizing same-sex marriage. Ballots were mailed this week, and activists on both sides of the issue have used the well-being of children to make their arguments. Last week, John Howard, a former prime minister, said legalizing gay marriage would hurt children. "I believe there is a conflict here between those seeking the right for same-sex marriage and the rights of the child, and I believe the right of the child to have a mother and father should be preserved," he told the Weekend Australian. The Duggan-Tierneys may not have a soapbox as large as Mr. Howard's, but they have over 59,000 followers on Instagram. From their account, at @the_real_dads_of_ Melbourne, they document their lives as parents playing at the park, shopping for groceries. Their hope, the men say, is to normalize same-sex parenting for a broad audience. The men have been together for 16 years. Though they are not legally married, they each wear a ring on their left hand and changed their legal names to share a surname. Reed was born to a surrogate in India, and he keeps a photo of the woman by his bed. In a biological and legal sense, only one of the men is his father, as the couple have not sought a parenting order from the courts, but we are already a family in our minds and hearts, Michael said. The mundane truths and challenges of gay couples who parent have been hard to find in the heat of the national debate. Gay parents describe the difficulties of completing even small administrative tasks. At the hospital, the Duggan-Tierneys might be greeted with, "Are you the dads?" but a government official renewing Reed's passport expected to meet the boy's mother, the men said. Earlier this week, a Fairfax Ipsos poll found that around 70% of Australians would vote in favour of same-sex marriage in the government survey. The vocal no camp is undeterred by the recent opinion polls. Opponents of gay marriage argue that children would lose the right to have a mother and a father, and that legalizing marriage would open the door to radical gay sex education programs. They view themselves as David staring down a politically correct Goliath, and with the postal vote results expected in November, they are predicting victory. "We have many hundreds of thousands of concerned people who will, like Brexit and like Trump, move and assert their quiet preference over the coming weeks," said David Van Gundy, a spokesman for the Coalition for Marriage, a group that opposes legalization. Supporters of same-sex marriage say the concerns about children are misguided. They point to a recent Columbia Law School report that analyzed 79 studies on the well-being of children with gay or lesbian parents. The researchers found that 94% of those studies concluded that children of same-sex couples fared no worse than those raised by heterosexual parents. Dr. Van Gundy said Columbia was engaging in public advocacy and mischievous science in releasing the summary, and he said that none of the studies that showed positive outcomes had significant data. "There are hurtful things being said," Senator Penny Wong, a member of the Labour Party and a gay parent, said about the campaign against same-sex marriage. Mendel Nonagents, France Press, Getty Images. Simon Crouch, an Australian researcher whose study was cited by Columbia, said the report is solid and reliable. 3 decades of research in this area points to no difference, and sometimes, some benefits, for children in same-sex parent families, he said. As the vote approaches, the tenor of the debate has become more heated and emotional. In August, vitriolic campaign materials, including flyers calling homosexuality a tragedy of a family, circulated in Melbourne and Sydney. "There are hurtful things being said," said Senator Penny Wong, a member of the Labour Party and a gay parent. "They might be said politely, but they are hurtful and inaccurate, about our families, about our children," another mother, Christy Yates, said. "This debate seems to be really about kids, and queer parenting. We've really felt that acutely," Ms. Yates, who has an 8-month-old daughter with her female partner, added. "I fail to see how extending this right to minority groups takes anything away from anybody else." On Wednesday, the debate turned violent. Former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd wrote on Twitter that his godson had been assaulted by an opponent of same-sex marriage. He was punched by a man who had been tearing down rainbow flags hung in support of same-sex marriage, according to local news media reports. The same day, the government passed emergency laws instituting penalties for vilification, intimidation and threats during the campaign. Since the Australian High Court paved the way for a postal ballot on gay marriage, Rodney and Jeff Chancruz have become vocal proponents of the initiative. Christopher Hopkins for the New York Times. In response to the No campaign's vitriol, many same-sex couples have felt compelled to speak out and share their lives in more public ways. Rodney and Jeff Chancruz are a gay couple from Melbourne who married in the United States. Since the Australian High Court paved the way for the postal ballot, the couple have made their home a base of operations for the campaign. On their living room table last week were hundreds of thousands of flyers that Rodney Chancruz, a gay rights activist, planned to stuff in local mailboxes. The flyers introduced his family and asked his neighbors for their support in the survey. "This is not how I want to be spending my weekends," Rodney said. In between sorting and stuffing envelopes, Rodney was interrupted by Ethan, his 8-year-old son, wondering whether he could play soccer in the park after Chinese school. "Well, see," came the reply. A few days later, Rodney expanded his campaign into digital territory, writing the flyer up as a Facebook post and paying for its promotion. "I feel like I am groveling. It is demeaning," he said. "But we will survive." Gay parents say the fight to legalize marriage is a fight for their children's dignity. They want their children to be treated the same way the children of heterosexual parents are treated. One Friday after school, 7-year-old Red Duggandierney was asked what's the most special thing about having two dads, reluctantly looking up from his afternoon snack of blueberries and apple. The boy squished his face in concentration. "It's the same as everyone else," he said. Follow Adam Baidawi on Twitter at @ADS_B.